While Chiron goes retrograde this week, there's also an air of romance happening in the cosmic conversation. And while there are invitations to grow, to expand, and to evolve, there are also invitations to find healing from past wounds, especially from the time that Chiron was in Aries. And also, how do you romanticize your day-to-day life? How do you plant both feet on the earth and slow down long enough to enjoy the juiciness, the abundance, the prosperity, and the romance available right here and right now? This is your Astro Weather Forecast for the week of August 3rd to the 9th, 2026. Let's go ahead and jump right in. What's up, everyone? For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Astro Mama. I'm a certified professional astrologer, board certified psycho-spiritual life coach, and real life mama. And I work with astrology to ground deep feelers, creatives, and mystics, and to help you swim with the cosmic current instead of against it. I know as a deep feeler, creative, and mystic myself, the world is not necessarily designed for us. And I don't like that belief. That is a limiting belief. And yet I do find myself and others, my clients, my friends, in these situations where we maybe feel isolated or alone or shameful to be who we truly are, or we feel greater shifts happening in the collective, in the macrocosm that we are connected to, and we don't know how we can actually fit into it and what we can do with it. And I feel like instead of the planets are happening to us, I believe that we can co-create with them. And that's what we do on this forecast. Keep in mind, this is a general collective reading of sorts. If you want to know what's going on in your personal life, you can book a reading with me. The link to do so is below. And there is a link to my Grounded Mystic quiz. When you take it, you'll get 20% off your first reading with me, as well as it will pair you with the best reading for you based on where you are in your astrological journey and also just where you are in life. Now, I am here in Bali, Indonesia. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm here for a retreat from one of my favorite astrologers, Haley Comet. Look at this view. I'm just so happy to be here. And I'm so grateful that I get to do something that I feel inspired to do when I'm on vacation. This has just been such a magical trip. I'm trying to keep it short because my roommate's going to be coming soon and I don't want to disturb her with content creation. But truly, this is such a dream come true to be here. On Monday, August 3rd at 1:10 p.m., Chiron, the wounded healer, will be going retrograde until January 6th, 2027. Now, while this retrograde does begin with Chiron, who's currently in Taurus, it will be moving into Aries from September 17th to April 14th, 2027. And this will be the last time that Chiron moves through Aries until 2068. So this is important stuff. And what I want to empower you to do during this retrograde is to reflect on what wounds came up for you during Chiron in Aries. Chiron was in Aries from April 17th to September 25th, 2018, February 18th, 2019 to June 19th, 2026. What were some wounds that came up for you? And if you're looking for support on a certain area of life or kind of niching down a bit, you can look and see what house in your chart is ruled by Aries. This will be slightly easier if you use whole sign, but you can also do this with Placidus, and you might notice there are multiple houses where Aries moves through in your chart. What you could have found during that period is some wounding, perhaps around personal power, courage, activation, confidence, and drive in that area of your life, and just feeling a little disempowered. And when Chiron is moving now back retrograde into that sign, this will be a time to fully kind of nip that in the bud. What do I mean? Well, Chiron is the wounded healer. And Chiron, the story is very fascinating, but essentially he takes this wound, this pain that he went through, and he has to overcome them so that he can be the supreme healer of the gods. And it represents parts of our lives where we were not necessarily in charge of the pain that happened to us, but we are responsible for the healing. And the word healer, I found in spiritual spaces, can be slightly triggering. I don't necessarily mean Chiron invites us to have a savior complex. And I don't necessarily mean that Chiron energy is asking us to self-abandon. But what I mean is that there's a sacred responsibility and devotion to alchemize what you've been through and you might inspire people and heal, quote unquote, heal them, not through anything you do for them, but who you be. And so if the word healer, that energy is triggering to you, I want to empower you to think about being a lighthouse and inspiring others through alchemizing what it is you went through and just radiating. I had a mentor in psychosynthesis. His name is John Shotland, and he said that we are always radiating something. Personal power and truth and consciousness and sovereignty comes from understanding what is it that I'm radiating and actually remembering that we have a conscious choice. And so maybe you sit with that area of your life. Let's say that Aries rules the second house in your chart. You're most likely a Pisces rising, but maybe not. Ask yourself, what wounds have I gone through financially or possibly with my money systems and also my value systems, how I earn income? What do I deeply value? How do I spend my money? What are my morals? Have I had to compromise my morals before my values to earn money? Have I been able to find a new way to earn money that's more aligned with my morals and values? How do you inspire people by how you be and how you anchor more fully into that? Because during a Chiron retrograde, sometimes things can happen in our environment that trigger those wounds again. So you could find that maybe you've started a pottery business and you donate 20% of your profits to climate change. And in your past job, you were working for a company that was creating data centers and harming our earth. But now maybe you have some months in your business, knock on wood, I'm not going to try to manifest this for you, but maybe you have some months in your business where you're not earning money. And so you start to feel scarce, you start to feel scared, and you start to question, should I go back? But you decide not to. You decide to just really fully trust. And then an investor comes into your pottery studio and they have the same morals and values as you, and they invest in your business. This is just an opportunity to see what could be possible for you. That's just an example. So moving along, welcome to Tuesday, August 4th. At 3:36 a.m. Pacific time, Mars makes an opposition to Black Moon Lilith. Now, there could be situations today that activate your raw primal essence or maybe like your flight response, or you could find that people in your environment are just a little testy. People are a little spicy. What does it look like to honor however you're feeling and maybe how the other person's feeling, but take a step back? So I find with Mars opposite Black Moon Lilith, one could feel on fire. And we all have situations where we feel so on fire, you know? I said in my last podcast, I was talking about the frog in Frozen 2 and how like the little frog lights on fire and then cools down once they're in snow. This is a good day to like honor how you're feeling. Maybe even move it with like a sacred rage ritual or dancing to screamo music in your room or twerking or something, writing a letter and burning it, but not necessarily addressing it in the moment, giving space and time to cool off. And this energy kind of comes back around later on in the week. How can you like take a step back from the situation so you can get a clear perspective? And I was listening to a podcast once by Leila Hormozi, and she was talking about emotional maturity and emotional regulation and leadership, and how being emotionally mature isn't never reacting. It's not never being triggered, but it's about creating more space between whatever it is that happens, the emotions that you have from it, the trigger, and then your response to it. And actually taking time and space to really process your emotions and not reacting in the moment, it gives you more power, more sovereignty, more control, and less messes to clean up later. Okay, so the moon enters Taurus tonight at 7:36 p.m. Pacific time. It squares Mercury, Jupiter, and Pluto, sextiles Mars in the North Node, and is conjunct Chiron and Lilith. When the moon enters Taurus on Tuesday, you could just be feeling like cozy. You could just be wanting to snuggle up with your partner, your kids, your dog, a book. You could be wanting to create a nourishing meal. It's a very like sensual energy. You might be wanting to give a massage, to receive a massage, burn some incense, light some candles, that whole vibe. With the different aspects going on, you could be feeling a little torn about like there could be a push-pull between your emotions and your head and your heart. And then how do you communicate them in a way that is reflective of how you truly feel? And that's why I think this week slowing down could be helpful. This week is more so asking, slow down, pause, so that when you do communicate, it's coming from such a true place. It's really reflecting your truth, your embodiment, your presence. And that way it's coming from a place of conviction, because our words are spells. Now, you could also, because of that, head over heart situation, the push-pull, possibly miscommunication. You could be feeling a call to overindulge, to escape, overspend. And there's also this, with the Pluto part of this, like a battle with possibly the darker parts of your psyche. Because this moon is also sextile Mars in the North Node, there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity to choose something different. Let's say that you get into a fight with your partner or an argument, and your impulse is to hide or to numb out with food or overspending or something. What does it look like to release that habit? I just saw a video on Instagram that said that growth comes not from picking up a new habit, but from having the courage to get rid of the worst habit you have. And that is so powerful. What is that habit that you have that you're releasing? And how can you release it and choose something different instead? Choosing growth and understanding that, I used to never understand when people would say things like, don't feed into that, or, I rise above the drama, or I don't do conflict. I never understood that, maybe because I have Mars on my descendant, but there's a truth to that, because every time that you fully let yourself either numb out or overactivate or overindulge, you're giving your power away. And this is very much asking, how do you call your power back to yourself? And when we choose differently than what our impulse is, we feel more confident. And when we feel more confident, we're more radiant. And when we're more radiant, our aura expands. And when our aura expands, we're more magnetic to opportunities, people, places, and situations that are aligned with our highest calling and that feel good overall. Okay, so fast forwarding to Thursday, August 6th at 12:13 p.m. Pacific time, Venus enters Libra, where it will be until September 10th, 2026. So this transit lasting a little over a month is beautiful, typically, because Venus is in its domicile in Libra, which means that it likes being in Libra. It likes the vibe. It likes the energy. It rules Libra and Taurus traditionally. And it creates this desire to beautify self through like beauty rituals, adornment, jewelry, clothes, to beautify our relationships through cultivating harmony and connection with another person, and to also beautify our home, our dwelling, by purchasing art or furniture. I like this energy for refurbishing, for thrifting, and just finding beauty and romanticizing your day-to-day life. Maybe you make your coffee in the morning and you take the time to really sip it slowly, or you do a nice yoga flow before bed. Yeah, and could also be a great time to end conflicts with people and find a common ground as well. Now, later tonight at 7:43 p.m. Pacific time, the Leo sun makes a trine to Saturn in Aries, and this creates a really positive environment for anything that needs long-lasting stability, discipline, routine, and goal setting. So we love that. We love to see that. Now at 11:08 p.m. Pacific time, the moon enters Gemini. It makes a sextile to Mercury and Neptune. It makes trines to Venus and Pluto. It's conjunct Uranus, and it makes a square to the North Node. And this day is just that of romanticizing your life. This is giving the vibe of making the most of every moment, of making things feel beautiful and magnetic and free, and just really enjoying and like the pleasures of life and the fruits possibly of your labor. And you could also just be feeling really lovey-dovey today, really romantic, maybe wanting to go on dates or spend time with your beloved. You could also be feeling especially psychic or intuitive as well. And there is this conversation around choosing growth. It keeps coming back this week, choosing growth, but maybe the choice or the paths that are available to you come from your psychic intuition, your spiritual downloads, your spiritual practice, like pulling cards around where is it that I want to go, and not following them blindly, as in getting rid of your own intuition, your own plan, and just completely doing something different because your cards told you to, but letting them show you avenues of what's possible. And that's really what divination is. Astrology, tarot, oracle cards, whatever it is you do, they show you what is possible, but ultimately you have free will. So don't lose that in the conversation. So we're going to end our week skipping over Friday, and Saturday and going to Sunday, August 9th. Mercury enters Leo this morning, where it will be until August 25th. Mercury moves really fast, and it enters Leo at 9:29 a.m. Pacific time. This is also really relevant because the South Node and Jupiter are in Leo now as well. And this is a great time to have a more playful approach to your communication, to your short-term travel, your immediate neighborhood, the skills that you want to learn, what do you want to share with other people, maybe even your siblings. And this is a great time to take an improv class, like a comedy class, a drama class, an improv class, or to go to some sort of play, musical comedy show. This is also a great time for parents to really connect to your children, to do something playful and new and unique together, and maybe even dramatic, like a puppet show or attending a play. And also for us all to anchor back into, reconnect to the inner child that lives within our hearts, and as well as courage, as well as bravery, and as well as full self-expression. I like Mercury and Leo for artists. I'm excited to see what new pieces of art go into the world, what new music comes out, what new TV shows come out as well. And at 10:15 p.m. Pacific time, Mercury makes a square to Chiron. The words that you tell yourself and the words that other people tell you could sting a little bit tonight. If you are being mean to yourself, let's stop that, okay? And if somebody's being mean to you, understand that like there's an energy around not seeing things clearly, and our communication being triggers or activations to growth, to expansion, but also, healing. So if you find that you're being cruel to yourself, ask yourself, what are the words that I'm telling myself? And how can I choose a kinder perspective of myself? How can I choose kinder words to deliver to me? If you're finding this real issues with your relationship, do not necessarily, you don't have to communicate about it tonight. Take some space to cool down and then explore, once you're feeling more level and your nervous system feels more soothed, what came up for me? What boundaries do I need to set? And then how can I communicate them from a cool, calm, and collected place? Not because your anger isn't righteous, not because your feelings aren't valid, but just because when everybody's grounded, regulated in our hearts, we hear each other better. It's more likely that your partner will be able to hear you better from that space. And if you're having this conflict within yourself, you will hear yourself better from that space. So that's definitely a quicker astro weather forecast for this week than usual. Let me know in the comments below if you liked it. If you want to book a reading with me, the link to do so is below. Also, if you are in the San Diego area, I have a new offering. I'm so excited. It's in person and it's called the 11th house, where the cosmos meets the calendar. We're going to meet once a month. It's catered towards divine feminine beings, women, to use the current astrology to plan your week, days, month, years, but to also just feel connected to one another. The 11th house rules community, connected to your own personal growth journey. And then how do you relate to other people in the world and what's happening on a global level? So I'll put the link to our first workshop below. It's on August 15th. I'd love to see you all there. And if you're not coming, or if you are, I'll see you next week here for AstroWeather Forecast. Okay, bye.